Hey everyone, I'm DT10 and in this video I'll be reviewing and showcasing the brand new 1.18 update for Minecraft. This is the Caves and Cliffs update part 2, adding, well, incredible caves and cliffs, and it truly is amazing. And so, with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I think a goat just did a massive jump on the side of my screen. But anyway, let's get on with this video. So we'll start with one of the main features of this update, and that is the caves. Now, obviously, I've flown around a bit and tried to find some cool examples. I particularly like this one. So obviously, what they've done in this update is extended the world height all the way down to -64. So this allows for some insane cave generation, and past Y0, basically it all becomes deep slate. So you get some huge lava aquifers and water aquifers. I believe you get all the lava down at -54, and then you basically just get these huge expansive caves. Now, something huge about this update as well is now the addition of 3D biomes. So a biome can now be specific to your height. So for example, over here, this is a dripstone cave. And if I go onto my F3 menu, as you can see, it will change to dripstone caves just over here. However, if I go out of these dripstone caves, it will change back to a forest, which is what the biome is up on the surface. So on the topic of dripstone caves, we've got some incredible new cave biomes, and this is an example of them. So you've got these huge stalactites and stalagmites, or dripstones, from both the floor and the ceiling, and there's also a higher chance of you finding copper, and you get a load of these dripstone blocks and a load of water, basically. So this is one of the new cave biomes. Then there's a second new cave biome, and that is the lush caves. So the lush caves are caves that generate the moss inside of them, along with grass, glowberries, moss carpet, dripstone, and water and clay as the blocks at the bottom, with some axolotls even spawning. So this is where axolotls spawn in the world now. They won't spawn anywhere else. They will purely spawn in these dripstone, these lush caves, and they also have their own mob cap. So you've then also got glowberries glowing from the ceiling, and then you've also got these. I believe they're called the spore. Oh, that's embarrassing. As I was trying to say, yeah, so you've got the spore blossoms, which create incredible particle effects all around you. You've got the azalea and flowering azalea, and yeah, it's just a really, really nice sort of safe haven as you're exploring these caves. Right, so as I'm flying around, you've probably noticed there's not actually very many mobs. So that is because in this update, something crazy has happened. So the light level for mob spawning has been reduced dramatically. So before, if the light level was 7 or below, basically mobs could spawn. Any hostile mob could spawn in the area. However, it now needs to be pitch black. So it needs to be light level 0 for any mobs to spawn. Which means in these lush caves, no matter where you are, because of the light emitted from the glowberries, obviously there's some specific areas such as over here where the light level 0, but they will more or less be free of mobs. So obviously, because there's not really any new blocks and stuff I can cover in this update, this is sort of one you'll have to explore yourself, but trust me, it's completely worth it. So just have a look around your world, just keep flying around, and you can see some incredible sights. I mean, it just keeps going. So I should probably talk about some of the other new cave stuff. So they're the new cave biomes. However, you've also got new cave types. Oh, and by the way, sorry if it gets a bit laggy in parts. It's because obviously my computer is generating huge amounts of terrain here, and my recording software and my PC kind of just can't handle that. So I've slightly adjusted my settings now. It should be a bit less laggy, but it might be a little bit more low quality. Anyway, so the new cave types, there are 3 of them. So first of all, you've got the cheese caves. Now these are the huge expansive caves. You'll find increased amounts of ores and stuff, and there's just loads and loads and loads of space, basically. So they're the really huge ones. Then you've also got the spaghetti caves. Now these are kind of like this classic caves. This is an example of a spaghetti cave, although this might actually be... No, I think this is a spaghetti cave. So these are the ones that are quite similar to the old cave generation. For example, down here, these are spaghetti caves, and they're quite similar to how we are used to seeing caves, right? Pretty thin and pretty long. And then you've also got the noodle caves. Now these are very, very similar to spaghetti caves, except much thinner. So there's much less space, and you might have to mine through in some areas. Okay, so here's an incredible example of sort of all of the cave types combined into one. So here you've got the new mine shafts with their new logs and stuff. You've then also got a lush cave, which has generated inside one of the new cheese caves, and then under here you've also got a lava aquifer connected to it with some spaghetti caves and stuff, and some noodle caves going off in various different directions. So this is an example of what you might find underground. So obviously this is easier said than done in survival. However, obviously flying around in Spectator, there are so many incredible cave systems around. Now, another thing to look at is ore generation. So here I've got two patches of diamonds very, very close to each other, and that's because the ore generation has completely changed in this update. So here is a screenshot on screen now of the new ore generation. So basically what this shows is that there is far more diamonds at the very bottom of the world than at the top. However, it's also dependent on how many air blocks are around it. So basically if it's in a cave or not. So this is obviously going to impact it quite a lot. So strip mining is going to become a lot less effective, especially as you have to mine through all of this deep slate, which is very, very tough in survival mode. And then it's also the fact that you'll have to go all the way down to -54. I believe that's roughly the optimal layer for diamonds. And yeah, it's just going to be a bit more of a pain to find diamonds. But if you go deep enough, you should find a lot more of them. Right, so just before we move on from ores, I've got some command blocks running that are removing all of the deep slate, diorite, stone, andesite, gravel, water, all of that stuff, just so that we can get a look at one of the other new ore features, which is these large ore veins. So right here is a copper one, and everywhere where you can see granite and copper is pretty much one huge ore vein. So this is where you'll find your naturally generating blocks of raw copper, and the exact same applies to iron. So if you find some tough and some iron together, chances are it could be a large ore vein. So this one is obviously absolutely expansive, and I believe if you mine just like half of one of these large ore veins, if you mine an iron one, you have enough for a full beacon. So these are huge, and they are absolutely crazy. So yeah, chances are you're going to find a lot of copper and a lot of iron very, very quickly. So make sure to look out for these if you find a lot of tough or a lot of granite. And if we head a bit lower in the world, this actually gives us a really good idea of how the ores actually generate. So here you can see how common diamonds are down here at bedrock and down here in the deep slate, and the same goes for redstone, lapis, and gold and stuff. Now, funnily enough, one of the rarest ores in the game is now actually deep slate coal, because such a small amount of it exists, because all of the coal generates above the deep slate layer, so above Y0, so you'd be incredibly, incredibly lucky to find some up here. But yeah, down here in the world, as you can see, there's a lot of diamonds, there's a lot of redstone, there's a lot of tuff, because tuff replaces almost all of the other stone patches, so like granite, andesite, diorite, all of stuff like that, it just replaces all of it. So there's going to be a lot of that down here, so make sure you don't mistake that for one of the large ore veins. But yeah, this is pretty much how you can expect to see all of your ores in fairly small patches. I mean, this is a huge diamond vein, that's a 9 vein, that is very, very rare. But yeah, fairly small patches, and a lot more common in caves like I mentioned earlier, and a lot of diamonds down here at the bedrock layer. So something interesting here to do with water and lava is that lava lakes, just like this one, will only generate above Y0, and then lakes have actually been removed. So underwater lakes have been completely removed and replaced with these water active aquifers, and that is what will create the local water level. Then dungeons, they will also be much more common below Y0, although something I feel is a bit of a missed trick in this update is expanding the dungeons and just making them much more interesting. Obviously this update is incredible, there are very, very few things in this update that are bad. However, something I've noticed is, considering they're much more frequent now, it would just be cool if they weren't just a little box with spawner. I think there's some interesting things you could do with them, and I think this would be the perfect update to introduce them. But you know, that's just me looking for that extra thing, and I think we've got enough to be going on within this update. Right, so next up I'm going to be covering the world generation above, basically all of the cliffs. So here is an example of an incredible seed I have found. So this incorporates loads of the new biomes, and it basically just creates this incredible scene. Now, for the sake of the video not looking awful, I've had to turn down my render distance quite a lot, but it's basically this incredible sort of plateau of snowy mountains with a dripstone cave down there as well, and a village down here, and a meadow beyond that. And all this stuff is what I'm going to be covering next. So first of all, you've got lots of new biomes, just like I mentioned. So first of all, you've got the meadows, and this is what will sort of bring the rest of the terrain into these new huge mountains. So these will contain a slightly different grass color. I believe it's a bit more similar to the forest compared to the plains biome. Then it will contain loads and loads of flowers, only passive mobs such as sheep and goats and stuff, and it will contain these azalea trees, which will tell you when there's a lush cave underneath. So then next up, you've got the new types of mountains. So these are these snowy slopes. These are the ones that are absolutely covered in snow, and this is where you'll also find your powdered snow, as you can see here. And then these ones are fairly flat compared to the next ones, which are the jagged peaks. So these are the ones where you'll see these huge peaks forming, and these are the snowy ones. So then you've also got the frozen peaks, and these will generate with ice on top of them instead. And then you've also got a load of biomes that have been renamed. So the old mountains are now called the windswept hills. The wooded mountains are called the windswept forest. Then you've got the gravelly mountains are the windswept gravelly hills. The shattered savanna are the windswept savanna. Then you've got a load of different ones such as the snowy tundra, jungle edge. They've all been renamed and stuff. And now jungle edge is something I'd like to come to in just a second. That's quite an interesting one. But then you've also got this biome, which is the grove. This is another one of the blending biomes. So this contains a lot of spruce trees and stuff, and it sort of just helps to bring the forest into the mountains as you go up. So these contain some sparse trees here and there, a little bit of a forest on the mountainside. However, it's not just these extreme cliffs that you will now find in your world. The general height of the world has been dramatically changed. So just flying around, this is a fairly normal plains biome. However, you can see it's much more elevated and just much more variated. Now, this is a bit of a bug I found. This is what's called a microbiome. I believe they tried to remove these. This is basically a tiny snowy slopes in the middle of a plains biome. Obviously, we'll see some patches and stuff here and there. But then this is another thing I wanted to cover. So the riverside and the ocean side, and basically beaches, have all been changed. So there's now quite a high chance there won't be a beach at all to provide some variation. So for example, you've got this. However, you've also got stony beaches, which are these ones here. So, stony shores, sorry. So I didn't realize they had an actual name. So you've got the stony shores here. Then you've also got beaches can tend to be much wider now. So the sandy beaches will be much wider. And here's some cool terrain I found earlier, by the way. There's sort of an ocean village surrounded by sort of stony shores and incredible mountains and stuff. To be honest, quite a lot of this video is me just going to be looking at this terrain. It's absolutely incredible. Then something like this is also a lot more common. I don't know if that's an intended feature, but definitely in this world, I've seen a lot more of this. So because both sides of this river will now be completely elevated, you get some incredible sort of chasms and canyons and stuff. And this is particularly noticeable in the hot biomes, such as the savannas and the mesas. So we'll head over there next. So here's an example of a bit of a longer beach. As you can see at this savanna, the beach stretches much further back into the terrain. I think this is really nice. I think it's a lot more accurate as well, and it also means you're a lot more likely to find turtles around the place, which is always a welcome change. So a lot of biomes in this update have actually been removed. So these include the Badlands Plateau, the Bamboo Jungle Hills, the Birch Forest Hills, Dark Forest Hills, Deep Warm Ocean, Desert Hills, Desert Lakes, Giant Spruce Tiger Hills. I could keep going. There's so many. Now, these are basically all of these sub-biomes. So these are all the biomes that kind of count towards the main one, but the world generation is quite different. So they used to be separate. However, now the world generation is so sort of varied, they've merged them all into one biome. So an example is this. This probably would have been a Desert Hills. So if there's any particularly elevated bit of a desert, that would have been a Desert Hills. However, that's now changed, so that will just be part of the standard desert. Now, coincidentally, I've just found a jungle over here as well, so I guess that's what we'll move on to next. So this is exactly what I was looking for. This is the sparse jungle. So this used to be called the jungle edge. However, they've sort of given this biome a bit of a revamp. So it's much bigger, you're a lot more likely to find it, and it's basically exactly what it says. It's a sparse jungle. It's jungle, but with less trees, and the trees are a bit less common. And I really like this. I think this has a lot of potential. So obviously a really big factor of the jungle that a lot of people build their base in for is the grass. So how vibrant the grass looks in this biome. And obviously this just makes making a flat area so much easier because there's about half the amount of trees you have to chop down. So this is a really welcome change. I really like this. Right, so I think I'm probably going to stop there world generation. Obviously I could go on for absolute ages. I'm staring at a changelog right now. I mean, there's so many things I've missed and there's so many things I can't talk about. But otherwise, too much of this video will just be me looking around. Oh, that's incredible. See, look at this. I've just found a beach with a shipwreck almost entirely on the land. But anyway, so much of this video will just be me staring at the world and looking at how incredible it is. So I really should move on to other stuff. So there have actually been a couple of texture changes in this update that are quite interesting. So first of all, signs have changed. Now it's quite hard to notice the difference, but the bottom of these textures actually changed to be the log type. Now this is far more accurate, because if you place a sign down and it's sort of not on the side of anything, it will have this texture at the bottom. And that wasn't accurately displayed. And a similar thing has happened to the doors. These are now far more accurate to what the doors actually look like. Now, I'm not too sure on these. This one looks a bit too like a grid for me. I quite like this one. one. They basically just look a bit more 3D in the model though, which is far more accurate. Then item frames have had quite a big change here. So the outside is much lighter, and that is again much more accurate to the actual item. It used to be a lot darker before, and the same thing has happened to the glow item frame as well. Then quite a big text change is actually the stripped dark oak log is much darker now. It was far too similar to the spruce wood. And by the way, oh, hello. By the way, don't worry, this isn't circular. This isn't vanilla Minecraft. I've got a texture pack making this circular. But yeah, so this is much darker, and it's much more accurate to Bedrock Edition. So that's, I really like that. That's quite a good change. I feel like it was much too similar to spruce. Then you've also got some kind of interesting stuff with the glass. So I think this is actually quite noticeable. So the red glass and the blue glass have both been changed to match the other glass types in their opacity. So the red glass has a much less obvious outline, and so does the blue glass. And I do agree, this matches the other glass types much better. So I've just got some of the other ones here, and yeah, before it was much more defined, and that sort of just didn't really fit. So you've actually got something quite interesting here, which is why it's so dark. An enchanting table actually now emits a light level of 7, which is the same as Bedrock Edition. So a lot of these are parity changes, which means that they're changes to make Bedrock and Java much more similar. I really like this. I think Bedrock Edition is kind of lacking in some of the features that Java has, and vice versa. I think this is a really welcome one for Java. And then on the topic of the enchanted table, this texture of the lapis has been changed to match the new texture. And speaking of new textures, the lectern has had a very similar thing with the base, although it's pretty hard to notice. It basically just fits better with the plank texture, the new plank texture since the 1.14 texture update. Right, now I'm going to start skipping through these features a little bit more quickly now, because there's just so many in this update. So if you want to see the full list of features, then I'll leave the link to the article for this update, which contains a full changelog down in the description. Basically, if I set the time to night and we go to sleep, then if we start typing something, as you can see, when we wake up, we don't lose the message. We are able to continue typing, and this is something that I have wanted for so long. It's always so annoying on an SMP when you're talking to other people and suddenly you just get kicked out of the bed and it just completely interrupts your typing. It's super annoying, and I'm really glad that they've changed this. So just a sort of minor change here as well. The cloud height has been raised from, I believe, 128 to 192, so they would be about here in the world, but they're now all the way up here, just to make it look a bit less weird when they cut completely through the mountains. And I think with the increased world height, this makes a lot more sense. Right, so there's a bit of settings stuff. So now there's some more menus for the controls, and you've got hide lightning flashes in the accessibility settings, and you've got an online option when you go into options from the main menu screen, and you've got simulation distance. Now this actually is quite an interesting one. So basically what this means is where mobs generate. So if you have this set to just 5 chunks, then any mobs outside of a 5 chunk radius just won't move. They won't have an AI basically. So an example of this is all of those animals over there that you can see. They just won't move anymore. Right, now these are a couple of interesting things to do with the world. So you can no longer generate a caves world, and you can no longer generate a floating islands world, and they've changed the amplified and large biome worlds to adapt with the new terrain. So amplified now has rounded terrain at Y320 instead of 256. It has double offset above sea level. It has massive increased 3D noise values, and it has double peak jaggedness. The only one of them I really understand is the first and last, if I'm completely honest. Then large biomes. Most biomes are now 4 times larger, except mountain peaks and rivers. Then multi-noise is slowed down by factor 4. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have no idea what that means. Right, now something else I'd like to mention is something that's now become tradition in a Minecraft update, and that is to change the background panorama stream on the main menu. And quite ironically, considering my main menu is saying music by C418, is also to add a brand new music disc to Minecraft. And we grab ourselves a jukebox and the brand new music disc Otherside by Lena Rain. Then we can have a bit of a listen. Oh yeah, and by the way, just to let you know, you can now also select your device in the music and sound options. That's quite a handy little thing. Anyway, if we go back, then we can listen to this brand new music disc. And with that playing in the background, I think that's a good place to end this review. So obviously there's loads and loads of features I just don't have time to showcase. This is already a fairly long review video, and this is just an incredible update. In my opinion, this is the best update we've ever had to Minecraft combined with 1.17. Just the caves and cliffs update in general is just an incredible update for me. The cave update is something the Minecraft community, including myself, has wanted for absolutely absolutely ages, and to finally get it along with some incredible new world generation and caves and stuff is incredible. And it's raining. You know what, I'm just going to sort that out very quickly. Anyway, so I really hope you enjoyed this review. If you want to find out anything else about this update, then please use the link in the description. It will take you to a full changelog of all the stuff in this update, which you can explore for yourself. But I really hope you enjoyed my review of a few of the features. So if you did, please leave a like or comment, and if you'd like to see more content like this, then please subscribe. But I've been DT10, and I will see you in the next video.